Here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Grid Shift podcast. I'm your host, Alex Durante. Today, I'm very excited for our guest. His name is Shawn Young. He is the founder of the Energy Hedge Group. He's really someone who's been in the energy space since the early days of solar. He's helped scale national sales organizations, and now he's operating at the intersection of energy infrastructure, manufacturing, and cost optimization at scale. As always, this episode and every episode is sponsored by Profit Access AI. We work with manufacturing and renewable energy companies to help them scale revenue, implement systems, drive efficiency and profitability, and really take advantage of all the operational leverage that we can. So make sure you stick around till the end so that you can connect with my guest, Shawn, connect with his company. Like and subscribe. As always, we are a growing audience, so we're looking for more subscribers, and we appreciate every one of you that hits that button. So as we kick off, I want to introduce my guest, Shawn. Shawn, you got into solar back in 2008, if I remember correctly. Before it was, trendy or mainstream, you saw an opportunity, and you were really involved with this before the big players even existed. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and a little bit more about your company, Energy Hedge Group.
Well, Alex, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, let's go back. So, look, I grew up in a blue collar family. First person to be educated in my family with a formal education. I attended Sacramento State University on a athletic scholarship. And really, when I was in college, I enjoyed it, loved my teammates, loved all my classmates, and had a great time. But I didn't really have a big plan. And so when I got out of college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And instead of just doing what aligns with me, I kind of just jumped around here and there. But the one thing I was good at was sales. I can talk to anybody. And so I jumped into equipment leasing sales for about 5 years. And then unfortunately, 2008 hit, and we went through a big recession here in the United States and globally as well. And so I was looking for something new, something I could become passionate about. And a buddy of mine who was pretty successful in the construction industry goes, look, you come from a long line of blue collar workers, long line of construction guys, yet you're educated. You should jump into solar energy. And this was '08, man. And I'm thinking, what is solar? What is that? And I started looking into it, and I kind of became fascinated with it. And I ended up getting hired by a small mom and pop firm out of the San Fernando Valley here in Los Angeles, selling small residential projects to local residences in the LA County area. And it took me a while to catch on, but when I did, I really caught fire and really got into it. From there, after a couple of years being there, I was recruited to be a sales director for a startup firm that was associated with Sunrun. And if you don't know, Sunrun was one of the first companies out there to provide power purchase agreements. And so I was hired on to be a sales director there and ended up being a part of a great team, wonderful company that we had 4 guys in a small office in the middle of LA. And we ended up growing that thing within 2 years to having 60 sales reps from Sacramento to San Diego and 5 offices. And we were doing roughly 200 projects a month. We were on fire.
I remember us talking about that. Let's dig into that a little bit. I'm curious, at that point, when you get to that level and you see that growth, you start to see patterns, right? You start to see things that maybe other people don't. What were the signals really early on that showed you, hey, this model really is something that we can explode? What were those signals that you were seeing?
It was just so easy. Like being here in California, we have the second highest electricity rates in the nation. And they're increasing at a double-digit rate every year. And so when you go to families at that time, the signal was, look, there's no investment here if you don't want it. Like, you can put no money down, and we're going to put solar panels on your roof. and we're going to sell you the same electricity you got before from your utility, but at a discounted rate, and your savings are going to grow every year compared to what the utility would have charged you. And I'm watching families look at this and go, whoa, we can save over 100 grand in 20 years. We can save 200 grand over 20 years. We can save 60 grand over 20 years, whatever their custom finance package was. They realized, they looked at this as a no investment up front, saving, long-term savings plan where they could put more money into the retirement, or if they're a young family, add to their children's education or add to other investments. So we're freeing up capital for them.
Right.
And with no capex, I just saw it was a no-brainer. And I got lucky. I got in when I got in, and I caught the very, very, very beginning of the wave in California. And
Interesting.
everybody was on board. Everybody.
So let's go through the transition to Energy Hedge, right? Energy Hedge. Obviously you made a very deliberate move to go from residential solar into commercial and industrial as well. When you made that shift, what was the fundamental change in why did you make that shift and integrate commercial and industrial as well?
Okay, so two things. First, why I made the shift? I saw the industry consolidating. I just saw everybody and everybody and their neighbor, everybody and their mom, everybody and their dad, everybody and their little brother were getting into residential solar in California. Not just the original solar groups, but also the roofers, the
Mm.
AC guys, the electric guys, the truck in a truck, right? Everybody was getting involved, and then there was other big funds that were supporting larger companies as well. And what I was seeing is, instead of one or two bids going on at somebody's house, you're having 5, 6, 7 bids at every house. And I'm like, there's too many people involved. The profitability is going down. But there was one other big thing that hit me. I said, it makes sense for everyone to do this if you have an electric bill of like $140 or more a month, which most people do in California. Why haven't they done it? Why? Either they can't get approved from a credit standpoint, or they don't like the legalities of this contract. So they're not going to do it. So I'm watching the residential industry start to go downhill, but I'm watching it from the peak. And I'm saying, okay, I got in at the bottom of the wave. Now this wave's coming down. What is the next move? I got to be ahead of the pack. And I got very fortunate. I met with someone who's a friend who lived locally, and we got together for lunch. And he worked on very large utility scale projects for solar. And he told me, you're absolutely right about residential. He goes, the next move's commercial and industrial. Why? Because the banks weren't ready to finance those projects, but now they're moving into starting to finance them. And so I founded Energy Hedge. I took the same model. I just started cold calling and going door to door and calling commercial and industrial clients in my backyard, basically door knocking and offering them
Interesting.
solar for their business.
So when you made that shift, were there any fundamental changes and at how you approached this business, or was it really taking all that experience you had in the residential and just, teaching people who were in commercial and industrial, or what were the fundamental changes, I guess?
There weren't a lot of fundamental changes, but there were a lot of learning lessons on how to approach it. Meaning,
Okay.
look, mom and dad down the street, they probably are pretty simplistic on how they make their decisions and why saving money or not. When it
Right.
comes to a business, they've got their board of directors, they've got their C level, they've got their bylaws. What do they expect on a rate of return when it comes to an investment or a finance package? When it comes to a finance package, do they have a minimum term? Like, can they go over 10 years or 5 years when they finance something? Can they go 15 to 20 years on a normal power purchase agreement or energy service agreement? Can they invest on something on the cash in that has less of a return than 12%?
Mm. Yeah.
When is their buying season? Maybe they come up with their annual budget at the end, like middle of February. And if they don't make a decision on that, on your particular project by middle of February, you have to wait until next year when their buying season comes back in. You
Right.
see?
So
So
learning those things as you were exposed to more businesses and commercial and industrial type places.
absolutely correct. So now
Now,
you're selling to CFOs now. You're not selling
yeah,
you're not selling to the little old lady down the street who's looking to save $60 a month.
right, right. No, that makes total sense. Now, you had mentioned, and I saw on your website some clients that you've worked with, such as Iron Mountain and CBRE, and it you've gained access to thousands of facilities. To me, that's not luck. That's how you've positioned yourself. That's how you've positioned the company. So I want to know, what is it that you do differently in those types of deals that you're able to open the door at that level? Because a lot of people in this industry, they're not opening the door at that level. So I'm curious, what makes your approach different?
One, it was timing, but also I would say understanding and listening to the client. When you finally break down that door and you get a hold of the client, you're like, look, I know you guys have a problem here. I understand the market, but what are your goals and needs? And let me deliver on those. And just
Mm,
listen. Listen to what their needs are, listen to what their goals are. I already know they have a problem. Here in California, the utility electric bills usually their second highest overhead cost next to payroll every month. And they're watching this thing grow by, if you're industrial, 12 to 14% a year in increases. If you're a commercial, maybe 9 to 10%. And so that CFO and that plant manager has a problem. And I already know they have a problem walking into this. But I talk to them about, look, you haven't done something because no one has diagnosed this correct. Tell me what your problem is and tell me what your goals are and your needs. And then I'm going to sit back and think about a way to solve it. Now, in saying that, I also realize that companies like CBRE or Iron Mountain, they have a portfolio of assets across the nation. So I'm not like anyone else that would just go, oh, let's just do your whole portfolio. Well, look, their plant in Mississippi or their buildings in Mississippi may be much different than their buildings in New Jersey. And those buildings in New Jersey may have different problems than their buildings in Vegas. And those ones have different problems than their buildings in San Diego. So I really talk to them and hear about their problem and go, okay, out of your 1,500 facilities nationwide, these 24 address, these 24 are your biggest problems that you've told me. So let's attack these 24 right now.
yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Taking the consultative approach, not the one size fits all, and actually, I mean, really consulting what their needs are and then finding a solution for it. And you said something on our pre-podcast chat. You said something along the lines of, why is it that every company that has a $30,000 energy bill, why don't they have a solution, right? And you said that to me, and it stuck with me. So I want to go down, on what you said there. What do you think the real problem is as to why companies aren't taking advantage of this? I mean, that's a perfect example. If you have a $30,000 energy bill and what you just said about being one of the highest overhead costs, why is it that people haven't been able to solve that at scale?
So there's two reasons. The first reason is that they could be a smaller company and they are so wrapped up into their day-to-day operations that a project of this magnitude that they're not, you have to understand renewable energy is really new to a lot of folks, so they're not even understanding what to do or who to call or how to address this. The second the second reason is because maybe the traditional renewable energy source of solar doesn't work for them.
Mm,
Okay. Most solar companies come in and tell you you need solar. Well, we have 3 8-hour shifts. the sun's only out for 7 hours, 8 hours really a day. So what are we doing here? What about the other 14 hours? Right? Or we have a very small real estate footprint. Well, solar at least needs 50,000 square feet or more. And 50,000 square feet is not going to put much of a dent into somebody that's got a bill of $250,000 a month. That's
Mm.
one thing you need to understand. Most of my clients, I've grown in the industry where their bills are minimum 100 grand a month or more.
Right.
And
Right. So
so solar would need like 5 acres or maybe an acre, 2 acres, 3 acres of land. And maybe you have a facility that's a food processing facility and they don't have a lot of land and width. So they've built up.
right, right. So that, well, I mean, that leads perfectly to the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is you shifted from, obviously being in solar and more of a solar company to now you guys are a full scale energy solutions company. And I remember you touching on fuel cells and hydrogen and waste to energy. I'm just curious, besides solar, what really forced that evolution and where do you see the biggest opportunity for businesses right now?
The biggest opportunity for businesses that's looking at a buffet of energies and determining which one is best for them. I'll give you an example and how I got into this. A few years ago, I started noticing, I started realizing why hasn't everyone done solar? And I said it doesn't work for them. So what else is out there? And I went right into the hydrogen rabbit hole. Now, hydrogen's the most abundant source in the universe, but it's not easy to produce and it's not always available. And so on smaller projects, it's tough to get anything under 10 megawatts, even maybe 20 megawatts. So you're really looking at hydrogen really being big, huge 50 megawatt, 100 megawatt plants. And they can work for like a 20 megawatt plant in the right situation. But that opened the door for me to start to look at other energies. And I started to look at waste to energy, where companies take certain waste, whether it just be landfill or even, hate to say it, cow dung, and it turns into energy through a fuel cell. And that right there is good for certain sized projects in certain areas of the country. And we do have those clients as well. And then finally, I got into linear generators. And these linear generators, they're like a 20-foot case and they tap into your natural gas line and it takes natural gas, runs it through a fuel cell of magnets, and turns it into electricity. Well, what's great about that? You're only looking at 20 feet of case. That's it. You're not needing 50,000 square feet of roof or 200,000 square feet of parking lot just to put a dent into your electric bill. You
Right.
just have one case that's 8 feet high and 20 feet long that taps into your natural gas line. Why does that work in California and in the Northeast, especially? Because nat gas prices are much, much cheaper than electrical prices. So you tell a CFO, you're no longer going to power your building with electricity prices. You're going to power your building with nat gas prices. And he'll think off the top of his head, yeah, our nat gas bill's way cheaper. Exactly, because the rates are small.
Interesting. And that reminds me of another thing that we talked about last time, which was, the operational risk of only having solar. And you told me you've talked to some companies that said, hey, we've had brownouts, like you just, mentioned about the two shifts. The sun's only out for so long. So from your perspective, how big of a hidden problem is it right now across industrial operations when they're only using solar and they're not even exploring some of these other options that you just talked about?
Man, it's a big problem, man. So you've got companies out there, and a few of my clients, they'll be the first to tell you, look, we experience a brownout now, and they're occurring more and more. One of them had
Mm.
two brownouts last week, and they said, look, can we meet next week and close this deal? We need to make this happen now. These brownouts are affecting manufacturing companies, cold storage, heavy machine use companies. Okay, because that brownout, not only does it hit the building and people think, oh, well, it comes back on. Yeah, it's no problem if you're in an office building with computers and phones. But if you've got huge manufacturing equipment, that equipment can take 6 to 24 hours to start up again. And at the same time, you've just got a shift of people sitting around doing nothing. On top of that, when it happens 7, 8 times a year, then those machines start to break down over time. And when you bought that machine for $10 million, it was supposed to last you 12 years. Well, now after all those jolts, it's only going to last you 8, 7, 8 years.
Right. And not even to mention material crashes, presses, I mean, there's so many
Compressors.
complexities involved with manufacturing. I mean, it can cost, I mean, I would assume a brownout can cost hundreds, if not millions of dollars for a
Oh, we've
company.
got clients that are in the 8 figures that it
Wow.
costs every year. Now, here's the answer. We have an answer. We have an answer through a linear generation battery combo that will not only works as a virtual utility that prevents the brownout, it also conditions the electricity from any voltage spikes or drops
Oh,
24
wow.
hours a day. So even if you don't have brownouts, your equipment's still being hit by these voltage spikes or drops from the utility electricity. So
Right.
even over time, that 12 years of that machine supposed to last you, if you're in a bad area, that machine can last you 9, 10 years, 8 years and not perform nearly as well and start to break down and have higher O&M costs just from the voltage drops or increases over time. We prevent that. So we provide you clean, conditioned energy that's smooth. And guess who loves it? Anybody that's got heavy manufacturing, anybody that's got cold storage, anybody that's got compressors, boilers, what have you. But also, the big thing is the data centers, because those microchips work much better when they don't have those voltage hits and they last
Right.
much longer. So now we're getting in the data center game.
You guys are doing so much more because it's not just about reducing energy costs anymore. It's about stabilizing operations, protecting equipment, extending life cycles. So if you're sitting across from a CEO or someone who's operating a plant or a heavy manufacturing environment, how should they be thinking about energy today versus how they were thinking about it even, 3 or 5 years ago?
Oh, this is their second largest overhead cost next to payroll. So it's their second biggest issue. Now, you could look at payroll being an investment. You could look at energy being an investment and not a cost anymore. You need to be your own microgrid. You need to be your own power supply. Look, these utilities, do you see utilities being born every day? No. At least in California, I can't speak for the nation, but at least in California, you can't shop your utility like you can your internet, your cable, your streaming, your phone service. If you need new AC units, you can call a million companies. You need new windows, you can call a million companies. You can't call anybody but your local utility to come hook up your electricity and your natural gas. But now you can. And we have the solution. And the bottom line is we're here to listen to your problem. We're here to listen to your goals. And then we put a plan together and match that with one of our buffet of energy sources. And then we'll be able to take care of you.
Well, I love that you guys have multiple sources, and I love your analogy of having a buffet of energy sources, because I think depending on the application, you're going to have something that fits someone, and that something might not fit someone else, but now you're able to offer a full solution. So if again, speaking as you're sitting across from a CEO of a manufacturing company or with high energy costs, they have operational pressures. What's the first move that they should be making?
They really need to take a look at their last 1 or 2 years worth of bills. They really need to examine the rate increases, the rate structure of their bills. And we often sit there and do that with them. And then also what their increases are over time and what the increases are over the next 3 to 5 years. because it's just going to get more and more aggressive. It's getting more and more aggressive in states that are usually conservative when it comes to energy. You see what Nevada and Arizona and Florida have, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, what they have on tap for you, let alone New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, California, Hawaii. But in saying that, they need to look at their bills, and then they need to look at a short-term and long-term plan on how to fix that. And they need to bring in somebody that's an expert. Now, some companies, they do have a facilities management expert who's got some energy experience, but they don't work in this every day. And they need to bring in somebody like myself that can come in, help them diagnose their issue and talk to them about their needs and goals. And then someone that can actually deliver. They also need to look at a budget too. What are they willing to spend on it? Or if not, what are the zero CapEx options? And we have all of those.
That's awesome. So, I mean, in essence, right, know your data, know your numbers, start to actually look at the information, because your company provides a solution that can help really any business, not just manufacturing and industrial, but really anyone. I mean, even still your homeowners, I'm sure you can help anyone across any scale. We all use energy, and it's more important than ever. Before we wrap up, I do want to just give you an opportunity and also ask, where can people find more information? Where can they connect with you? Where can they connect with Hedge Group? Just I want to make sure that we give people the information to get access to you.
Well, you can go to LinkedIn to Shawn Young or to Energy Hedge Group on LinkedIn. That's probably our modern website now, I would say. You can also go to energyhedgegroup.com, and find us there, contact us there. But we are a Southern California based company. We do business nationwide. We've got projects in Florida right now, in Georgia. We've got projects in Texas all the way through Utah, Nevada, Arizona, and California. The reason why I keep mentioning California is not only is it the backyard, but in saying that, it's just the cost of electricity is so high here. And here's the issue too that we're seeing that we need to go into is, I know we're going to wrap up here, but you have all these data centers, and then you also have the EV charging stations that are becoming more and more noticeable here in California. Those take a lot of electricity, man. And you have these utilities that are behind the gun to upgrade their local their local transmission stations. The issue is that sometimes it takes them 5 years to get around to do it. And so some of these clients that are needing more electricity or needing better electricity, cleaner electricity, they're going to have to experience a ton of brownouts until that happens. So becoming your own microgrid when everybody's looking for abundance of energy is the best source to have it in your backyard.
Shawn, I think that's a really strong way to end the episode. I mean, what you just said about becoming your own microgrid, I think that that's just going to become more and more important. I appreciate you coming on, giving us real insight, giving us your real experience, not theories and ideas, but actually you've lived this for, I mean, almost, well, it'll be 3 decades before you know it. But really, I appreciate you taking the time to share. For the audience and everybody watching the recording, we will make sure that in the below description of the podcast, we'll put Shawn's information, his LinkedIn. Make sure that you connect with him, check out what they're doing. There's solutions out there, everybody. There's opportunities for you to see an ROI pretty quickly. And what I love about what Shawn talked about today is he has a buffet of solutions. So it's not a one size fits all. If you haven't looked into any of this, if you don't understand any of this, connect with Shawn. He's going to be consultative. He's going to take the right approach. He's going to show you what's available and what your company can use to ultimately increase your profits. So, Shawn, if there's anything else you want to close us out with, otherwise, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode.
No, we're good. I appreciate you having me on. And to anyone out there that is, a plant manager, a CFO, or CEO of a large industrial company or a commercial company, we're here to, be able to solve your needs and provide you with a great savings program and plenty of cash flow by helping you become your own microgrid.
Fantastic. Thank you, Shawn. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Again, make sure you like and subscribe. We appreciate all of you attending and watching the Grid Shift podcast. As always, I'm your host, Alex. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.